All right, good. So today's webinar is going to focus on the School of Science and Engineering's role in interdisciplinary scholarship, and will feature an excellent example of that, the Brain Institute. And so the first part of the presentation here will be on our interdisciplinary collaborations. The second half will be on the Brain Institute, and then we'd like to give you about 30 minutes for questions and answers on either one of those two topics. So last year, President Mike Fitz established two task forces. One of those task forces focused on the undergraduate experience, and the other focused on interdisciplinary scholarship. Those committees, those task forces, completed their work in June of last year, June of 2015, and they came out with reports with recommendations, and those recommendations are to inform the university's strategic plan going forward. For anybody interested in either one of those task force reports, they're both posted to the web. They're in the President's section of the Tulane website, so you can read them there. And in the meantime, we have a group that's looking at the intersection of those two, which I think is also incredibly important at a place like Tulane. In the fall of 2015 webinar, I addressed the undergraduate experience in the School of Science and Engineering and how it relates to the Tulane undergraduate experience generally. I was joined in that webinar by Kristen Hanrahan, who is a engineering physics undergraduate student, and she gave her personal experience and addressed each one of the recommendations regarding the undergraduate experience. Today's webinar will be on the second topic. It'll be on interdisciplinary scholarship and research. Now, I'd like to tell you that also that these webinars are all posted to the website as well. So the first three webinars are there, and this one will be posted shortly after it's completed. You can find them in the Dean's Webinars section under the News tab on the SSE homepage. So again, today I'm going to address the culture of collaborative research and scholarship, both within the School of Science and Engineering and across the university generally. And as an excellent example of that, I'll turn it over to Jill Daniel, who will talk about the Brain Institute. In 2006-2007, the School of Science and Engineering developed a strategic plan, and that was the first year of the school's existence. We were created in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. 2006-2007 was our first year, and we did a very comprehensive strategic plan at that time. We've updated that plan over the years, as you might imagine, but the core mission and the vision have remained essentially the same. And so up on the screen, you have the SSE Mission and Vision. We've tweaked the words a little bit over the years, but this has been the idea behind the school from the very start. You can see that the mission of the school is to provide outstanding opportunities for learning and discovery in science and engineering, and to foster an environment that is student-focused, research-intensive, transdisciplinary, entrepreneurial, and responsive to the needs of society and the community. The word transdisciplinary, originally it was interdisciplinary when we first did the strategic plan 10 years ago. It's been transformed into transdisciplinary, and what that means is that we work across disciplines. The disciplines all interact with each other, and across disciplines within the school, and as I'll point out in a moment, outside of the school as well. The vision statement, which at the behest of our board of advisors we kept very, very short and to the point, is we envision a school in which scientists and engineers learn, discover, and innovate collaboratively. So you can see that the School of Science and Engineering was already positioned to be part of a truly collaborative environment. Also at that, I'd like to have the next slide, because in our strategic plan, we also identified scholarly themes. So the School of Science and Engineering established two scholarly themes. One of them is health, cognition, and bioinnovation, and the other is energy, environment, and sustainability. Now, we established these two themes because they built on our strengths, because they were areas that we feel are very important to our city and to our region. And these are areas that we will continue to invest in as we go forward. The health, cognition, and bioinnovation one is obviously where the Brain Institute resides, and we'll talk more about that shortly. In the task force report that just came out this past June, the task force identified 3 themes for the university. So I have on the right, I have the 3 themes for the university. They are health and bioinnovation, environment, energy, and resilience, and global studies, Gulf region, Latin America, and Africa. So obviously we're very pleased to be an important part of the strategic vision of the collaborative scholarship vision of the university as well. By the way, we also do have a lot of activity in global studies, but I'm not going to elaborate on those today. I'm going to elaborate on the 2 themes that are really the predominant themes in our school. Okay, so the next slide. What I've done on the next slide is I've listed the units that are mainly involved in areas having to do with health, cognition, and bioinnovation. As you can see, a large number of programs in the school, departments in the school, have strong bio components to them. Obviously, biomedical engineering, our cell and molecular biology, chemical and biomolecular engineering. The chemistry department has biological chemistry. Computer science has a lot of activities that intersect with topics in the health sciences and the biological sciences. Of course, ecology and evolutionary biology. Mathematics, a lot of work going on in mathematics having to do with health-related issues. Physics and engineering physics has a lot of faculty members engaged in biomaterials, and of course psychology. So it's across the school. We have a great deal of activity, and we are a very health-related school in the first place. Fortunately, we also happen to be at a university that is very strong in the health sciences. We have a very strong medical school. We have a school of public health and tropical medicine. There aren't that many of those in the country, and ours is one of the very best. We have a primate center, the National Primate Center. There are only a handful of those around the country. And we're in a city where we happen to be right next door to another great medical school at LSU. So there's a lot of health science activity within Tulane and within our community, including construction of a big biozone in downtown New Orleans. We have a group at Tulane called the Health Science Leadership Group. It consists of the Dean of the School of Medicine, the Dean of the School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine, me as the Dean of the School of Science and Engineering, the Director of the National Primate Center, the Provost, and the Vice President for Research. And we get together almost every other Tuesday, late in the day, just to talk about ways that we can stimulate more interaction across all of the disciplines in the health sciences at Tulane. We have a building in downtown New Orleans, the J. Bennett Johnston building. We have renovated 4 floors of that building, and that is joint space where we have researchers from all of our schools working together on problems of mutual interest. As I said, the Brain Institute is one of our big initiatives here. Another big initiative in this area is bioinnovation. We have a lot of activity going on in bioinnovation. We have a program in bioinnovation that will be the topic of a future webinar, and that program focuses on graduate PhD students who learn how to develop products, become entrepreneurial, perhaps start their own business. That happens to be a joint program involving the School of Science and Engineering, the School of Medicine, the A.B. Freeman School of Business, and the School of Law. And that program we have a lot of students who have come out of that program with marketable products. By the way, there are 2 of those students who are competing in the finals of the Rice Business Plan competition, even as we speak. And it's my understanding that you can go online and vote for them. So it's a little plug for our student startup companies. The School of Liberal Arts is another school that is engaged in this area with us, particularly in the Center on Aging at Tulane. And I understand that they've been talking to the Brain Institute about more engagement with the Brain Institute as well as other areas. So this is an area that is rich with applications. By the way, we don't have much time for a webinar, so I can't go through all of the great activities that are going on in the school. But what I'd like to do is turn your attention again to the web. We have tried to highlight on our website all of the great activities that are going on in the school and across the campus. If you go there, you'll see all of our faculty members, all of their interest areas, and we have recently begun putting up little film clips of them explaining their research. We have about 10 or 15 of those up, and we're going to put up more of those going forward. The second area is energy, environment, and sustainability. Again, quite a few departments in the School of Science and Engineering are involved in this area. Some of them are a little bit different than on the other list, but a lot of them are the same. Earth and environmental sciences, ecology and evolutionary biology are two big ones, certainly from the environmental side. In terms of energy, certainly chemical and biomolecular engineering, physics, chemistry, and the intersection of those two is really important. The word that we use is sustainability. We live in a part of the country which is a major energy producer. We also live in a part of the country which is environmentally delicate and environmentally at risk. And so producing the energy that we need to drive our nation and drive our planet, while at the same time preserving that planet, is important. And we have a lot of people working at the intersection. One that I will point out is the endowed chair, the Entergy chair in clean energy engineering. We're building out a space in Flower Hall for that activity. And the Center for Bioenvironmental Research, which is a university-wide facility. We're deeply involved with them. And they're in the process of putting together a facility on the river. That facility looks at coastal dynamics, the delta, and the environment in which we live, the ecology of the environment in which we live. So that's a real quick run through. Again, more detail can be found on our website. With that, I think I would like to introduce Dr. Daniel. So Dr. Jill Daniel is a professor of psychology and neuroscience here at Tulane. She got her PhD at Tulane back in 2000, and she has been the director of the neuroscience program for a couple of years now, but she is the founding director of our newly established Brain Institute. And so I'll turn it over to her, and she can tell you something about that very exciting initiative.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you for having me here today. So what I hope to do is to share with you the goals and the vision for the Brain Institute. But before I do that, I want to go back and tell you a little bit about the history of neuroscience. We have a rich history, and it's a foundation on which we're building our Brain Institute. So we're currently celebrating our 30th anniversary. So the Neuroscience PhD program was founded in 1986 by faculty from the medical school and the main campus. There were actually two medical school faculty and one main campus faculty who created the Brain Institute. It's the first interdisciplinary program at Tulane, graduate program at Tulane, so we've been doing the interdisciplinary thing for a lot of years, and really before it became a buzzword. And even in the beginning, approximately half our faculty came from this campus, the main campus, and half of our faculty came from the School of Medicine. The director of the neuroscience program for the first 20 years, the directors came from the School of Medicine. And 10 years ago, the directorship changed to the School of Science and Engineering. So again, we've been collaborating with our colleagues at the School of Medicine for a very long time, and the neuroscience program is truly a collaborative effort between our two campuses. So in 2000, we added an interdisciplinary neuroscience undergraduate major, which today is one of the largest majors on campus, and we're proud that we have recently been ranked as one of the top neuroscience undergraduate programs in the country. In 2002, the neuroscience program added a master's program, which now, and Nick will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're the largest master's program in the School of Science and Engineering. So in terms of our educational and training programs, we're very active, we're very successful, and we now engage nearly 400 students in neuroscience across all levels, from the undergraduate to the PhD level. And a little bit about our faculty. So we've had faculty at Tulane doing neuroscience and brain research probably at least since the 1960s, and in fact in 1977, a neuroscientist at Tulane, Andrew Shalley, won the Nobel Prize for his work in discovering an important brain hormone. Today, we have over 40 neuroscience faculty. Literally half right now are from the School of Science and Engineering, and the other half are from the School of Medicine. And our faculty include basic scientists, engineers, and clinical researchers. We collectively have $14 million in annual external funding and have about $60 million in current active grants. And so if you look at the next slide, I want to just illustrate the interdisciplinary, or as Nick likes to call it, the transdisciplinary aspects of our program. So this is the current home departments of where you'll find our neuroscience faculty. So in the School of Science and Engineering, we have basic scientists working on neuroscience in the cell and molecular biology department, in the psychology department, the ecology and evolutionary biology department. We have engineers as part of the neuroscience faculty that come from the biomedical engineering and chemical and biomolecular engineering departments. At the School of Medicine, we have basic scientists working in pharmacology, in physiology in the Department of Medicine, and we have clinical researchers as part of our faculty that are working in the Department of Psychiatry, Neurology, and Neurosurgery. So that's a little bit about where we are and the kind of work that we do. So in the summer of 2014, we had a general faculty meeting of all the neuroscience faculty, and it was our goal was to take stock. Where are we? What and where do we envision we'd like to go? And at that meeting, our faculty voted to put together a plan to present to the administration to create the Tulane Brain Institute. And our goals in doing so were several, but the overall goal was to provide an infrastructure to facilitate the coordination and expansion of the already what we consider to be very successful neuroscience education and training programs, as well as research initiatives. We thought we were in a position that we had the foundation on which to build so we could ultimately bring Tulane neuroscience to the national prominent level. So our specific goals in doing so, we talked about why do we want to do this and why do we think if we create this organization, we would be in a position to bring neuroscience at Tulane to the national level. And one was simple. We felt we needed to increase our visibility. So we've been what we consider flying under the radar for probably 30 years, that we have these really successful programs. Our individual faculty have reached national prominence. But we felt we needed an organization, an umbrella organization to create a visible footprint for brain research at Tulane. So that was just a simple goal for us to increase our visibility. Second, we felt we needed to provide infrastructure to support our collaborative research. So everything we've been doing up to this point has more or less been bottom up, that our faculty have sought each other out in terms of forming collaborative research. But we felt with a little bit of infrastructure, a little bit of top-down investment from the administration, that we could build on our success and go to the next level in terms of neuroscience at Tulane. And along with that, when you have that kind of visibility, when you have that kind of increased infrastructure, you will attract and retain top faculty. You will continue to attract and build on our ability to get the top students in the country. And finally, we want to build on our community outreach and engage the New Orleans community, which I'll talk about a little bit in a minute. So overall, the Tulane Brain Institute, our goal is to oversee the development and implementation of current and new initiatives in neuroscience, research, education and training, and community engagement. So before I tell you about the vision and what we hope that Brain Institute will become within a few years, I want to just acknowledge that people have been working on this vision. So after that 2014 meeting, we created a faculty advisory committee consisting of neuroscience leaders at Tulane. So these are the people. Approximately half come from the School of Science and Engineering, and the other half are faculty, neuroscience faculty from the School of Medicine, that have put together the vision that I want to share with you right now. So we see the Brain Institute as having a three-pronged mission. So we have a vision for our research component, a vision for our educational component, and finally a vision for our community outreach component. And in terms of research, we envision physical and intellectual hubs of brain activity organized around research themes that will be supported through programmatic initiatives. And we envision that basic scientists, engineers, and clinical researchers will develop collaborative teams to advance research discovery and ultimately treatments under these themes. So what the advisory committee did was to identify what are our strengths, what are our research strengths that current faculty are working on, and what foundation do we want to build the Brain Institute on? And we developed these four themes. One is memory and cognition. So we have researchers trying to understand how the brain creates memories, how that changes across the lifespan. What about disorders of cognition, such as autism and schizophrenia? And so we have a core group of researchers looking at this question. We have others building on the legacy of hormones in the brain that neuroscientists at Tulane have been investigating for decades now. So we have investigators looking at stress and how does stress affect the brain, and how does stress hormones affect the ability to interact with other disorders and treatments for those disorders. We have researchers looking at hormones like estrogens and testosterone, and looking at sex differences in the brain and incidence of brain disorders that vary across the sexes. We have what we're now calling brain-body health, and what that means is researchers that look at how the brain impacts the body. And so we have some really top-notch investigators looking at how the brain regulates glucose levels, for example, and diabetes. We have researchers looking at pain management and the brain's role in pain management. We have researchers looking at hypertension. And so that group, we want to build on those current researchers to build our strength in that area. And finally, we have an emerging strength in the area of neurodegeneration. So we have investigators interested in neurodegenerative diseases, such as Alzheimer's, but also other diseases in that area. We also have a very strong stroke research program. We have clinical researchers looking at stroke, and we have basic scientists look at stroke. We envision physical footprints on both campuses, and so we'll have physical hubs in these areas, but we also have intellectual hubs where there'll be groups of scientists coming together, building research teams to answer these important questions. I just want to mention, so our lead gift to the Brain Institute by Bill and Marta Marco has allowed us to start to create that physical hub in memory and cognition here on the Uptown campus in the new Flower Hall. So our first initiative has started. And we have our group of neuroscientists at the School of Medicine who have formed a subcommittee who are actively developing a plan of what they want their physical footprint to look like at the medical school. So we're starting to make progress in this vision for our research component of the Brain Institute. The second major component of the Brain Institute will be our training educational initiatives. And so this will consist of the undergraduate major, our master's program, and our PhD program in neuroscience. And we want to expand on our postdoctoral training initiative in neuroscience at Tulane, which would include newly minted PhDs as well as residents to be involved in training at the Brain Institute. So we envision that education and training in the brain sciences will be integrated with research at all levels, from the undergraduate to the postdoctoral level. And we would like our training and educational initiatives to be associated with our research themes. And so our vision is that if you're a newly minted PhD and you want to do a postdoctoral fellowship in memory and cognition, that Tulane will be a destination place to do that. We'll have the facilities, we'll have the top-rate faculty, we'll have fellowships available, and this will be a destination place to do that kind of research. And we'd like that to be true for all of our research themes. So the Brain Institute will be a place where training and education is integrated. So we don't do research here and train and educate here, that our faculty and our students will work side by side to address the issues of the brain. And finally, our third component we envision of the Brain Institute will be our outreach and community engagement component. So we will engage, and we have engaged the School of Medicine and the School of Science and Engineering in this component, but what we haven't done, and which we want to do in the near future, is pull in the School of Medicine to help us develop these community engagement initiatives. So what we want to do, two things under this component of the Brain Institute, is to support and promote outreach initiatives, particularly as related to K through 12 STEM education in New Orleans schools. And we've been doing a lot of that already. Our neuroscience students are very active in going into New Orleans schools. Our faculty are involved, and we want to continue to build on that. One thing we haven't been doing, and we want to develop a program, is to develop community engagement initiatives in the area of brain health. So we want to reach out to our community partners. We want to engage the School of Public Health, coordinate activities with LSU Health Sciences Center, who actually have an active neuroscience program as well, to engage the New Orleans community and to do outreach programs in terms of community health. So the last thing I want to talk about right now is why Tulane? Why do we think we can be a national player in terms of neuroscience, and why is the Brain Institute going to lead us to that national prominence? And so what we did after that August of 2014 meeting is we did a survey. We before we made our proposal to the administration, we did a survey of what we consider our peer institutions. So we looked at schools like Emory, Rice, Vanderbilt, Duke, Wake Forest, and University of Miami. And we looked at their programs, and we actually did a matrix and check. What do we each have, and what does Tulane have to bring to the table? And so we looked at the breadth of facilities. So Tulane has a medical school, we have a main campus, and we have a primate center. The neuroscience program faculty come from all three of those campuses. We're only one of two of those universities that I mentioned that has those three, the other being Emory. So we have these unique set of facilities. Number two, we have a breadth of disciplines that we think makes us competitive. We have a close-knit and collaborative neuroscience faculty that are composed of scientists, engineers, and clinical researchers. We're the only one of these schools that I mentioned that has a School of Science and Engineering. We'll be the only Brain Institute, Brain Center neuroscience program that integrates the scientists with the engineers, with the clinical researchers. And finally, we have a breadth of educational and training programs. We already have vibrant and successful neuroscience programs at the undergraduate, master's, and PhD level. We are the only of the institutions in the southern region that I mentioned that has that combination of educational programs. So I argue that we are the only university among our peers and peer aspirants that has this unique combination of strengths. We propose that the launch of the Tulane Brain Institute will put Tulane in a position to be a national leader in advancing research leading to greater understanding of brain function and development of new treatments for brain disorders. So that's a little overview of who we are and what we hope to be. So do we go with questions
Now we go with some
now?
questions, yeah. So just send your questions in. We'll have somebody here holding them up in the air for us to look at, and we'll take them as they come in until we need what? Need the camera?
Oh, I gotta go closer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we gotta get together
Right,
here.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm first. Okay, the question is, what is the psychology department's role in the Brain Institute? So the Brain Institute, as I mentioned, has basic scientists, has engineers, and has clinical researchers. So neuroscience is inherently interdisciplinary in that we all approach the study of the brain from a different perspectives. Neuroscientists in psychology departments generally are interested in the relationship between brain and behavior. For example, I'm in the psychology department. I'm what is called a behavioral neuroscientist. So I'm interested in how the brain controls behavior. And we have several behavioral neuroscientists whose primary department is the Department of Psychology. And so we engage in research in looking at, again, the relationship between brain and behavior. The psychology department is also one of the major contributors to our undergraduate major. So faculty from the Department of Psychology serve as advisors to our undergraduate majors and serve as PhD advisors to our PhD program. So the other major contributors to the undergraduate major is cell and molecular biology. Primarily, those are the two big contributors in terms of teaching the courses, et cetera. But we also have neuroscience courses taught by other faculty in the School of Science and Engineering, including our engineers.
Okay, thank you. I guess the next question is for me. It's, will an interdisciplinary focus create students who are jacks of all trades? I'm glad somebody asked that question because that's why I like the word transdisciplinary. I think the key to interdisciplinary work of any kind is that you bring together people that have a deep understanding of their discipline, but who can communicate with each other and work together in an interdisciplinary kind of environment. So we don't want to be producing students or anyone else that are a mile wide and an inch deep. We want people that really understand their disciplines, whether that be in the sciences, in engineering, medicine, whatever, but who can work together in these transdisciplinary teams to address the problems from all different directions.
Okay, the next question's for me. It says, do you plan to incorporate the new computer science program into research involving the brain? And actually, I meant to mention that, and I forgot to mention that a few minutes ago, but yes, that's one of our goals. Actually, a long-term goal is to develop a computational neuroscience component of the Brain Institute, and that will engage the computer science department. We've started to do that already. The computer science major is a coordinate major, and so those majors have to have a primary major. So we have neuroscientists and neuroscience majors who are already interacting with computer science. But our goal is actually to develop a computational neuroscience program under the umbrella of the Brain Institute. So yes.
Okay, so the next question is to both of us, and maybe I can start on it. So, as an alumnus, are published and non-published white papers available? I mean, the answer is yes. We have lots of write-ups, some of which we've published and some of which we hand to people that might be interested in investing in the program. Anybody out there that would like to learn anything more about the Brain Institute or any other initiative in the school, we'd be more than happy to provide you with our latest thinking on it and what the opportunities would be for you to help us to grow those activities.
And so this one's for me. It says, please comment on how engineering is a part of the Brain Institute, and I'm glad you asked that. So we have several faculty in engineering departments who are members of the neuroscience faculty. I'll give you a couple of examples of how we interact. So, for example, Michael Moore is a member of the biomedical engineering department, and Michael's work is developing tools. He actually does 3D printing of neurons, and he's developing tools to help us investigate the biological roles of synapses, where neurons talk to each other, brain cells talk to each other. We actually have an ongoing collaboration between Michael, between some computational neuroscience at LSU, and between a cell and molecular biology faculty and myself. And so we're trying to develop this model, a particular brain circuitry. I'm doing the behavior, which will inform the biologist. The biologist will then inform Michael what he needs to do in terms of building this model that we can then test our hypotheses about this circuitry. And then we're bringing in a computational neuroscience to inform her about our results so she can develop a computational model. That's one example how Michael Moore is developing tools that we can use in the biological component to test some of our hypotheses. Another example is the chair of chemical and biomolecular engineering, Ann Robinson, is investigating a particular protein called tau protein, which is involved in Alzheimer's disease. So she's I'm trying to understand the chemical makeup of that tau protein, and we're talking about collaborations of, as she's developing tools and understanding of this protein, how we can test those tools and those things that she's developing in an animal model to see if there actually has some impact in the whole animal. So that's just two of examples of how engineering and other neuroscientists are interacting.
Great. Okay, the next question. Have you seen an increase in technology commercialization since the integration of science and engineering? The answer to that question is a resounding yes. Jill just referred to Michael Moore's work, and that is a startup company. That's one of many startup companies that have come out of the School of Science and Engineering. If you look at the trend in patent applications or patents issued or licenses, etc., up until about 4 or 5 years ago, there was very little activity on the Uptown campus. Almost all of the commercialization activity at Tulane University was in the health sciences downtown. We just spiked a few years ago to the point that over the last 5 years, we've had well over 100 patent disclosures. We've had about 25 licenses issued over that period. If you go to our website, and I keep referring to the website because I'm very proud of it, if you go to our website, we've put up there descriptions of every startup company that we know of that evolved out of a technology in the School of Science and Engineering, and that is local. Most of them have established themselves locally, which also feeds our mission of fueling our economy. So yes, this has become a big part of what we do. And just a few years ago, it was not part of what we did.
Okay, this question is, how can undergraduates get involved in neuroscience research? And actually, that's what I consider one of the strengths of our undergraduate program. If you look at the study.com site, and one of the reasons they cite us as a top neuroscience program in the country is because of our ability to engage undergraduate neuroscience majors in our research. But I give advice if you're a parent of an undergraduate who's listening to this, or if you're an undergraduate listening to this, how you need to go about doing that is, well, first of all, we have information on our website as to what the kind of research our faculty are engaged in. but I would suggest that you think outside the box and you be persistent. We currently have about 50 of our majors, or about 300 total majors in labs. They're working alongside our PhD students and our faculty. They're working at the School of Science and Engineering, and they're working at the School of Medicine. But there is competition for those spots. So what I tell my undergraduate advisees, you need to be persistent. You need to politely ask for a spot, email your professor, and talk about your interests, your goals, etc. And then be persistent as you contact those faculty members and contact them more than once, and give them an idea of your goals for wanting to be involved in research, your future plans, etc. Our students get course credit for being involved in research. They will get into a lab and often stay for their entire career at Tulane. So I just came back from an honors thesis defense at the School of Medicine on Monday. It was one of our top neuroscience undergraduates. She entered one of our neuroscience faculty lab in pharmacology when she was a freshman, and now she's a senior graduating, and she just got accepted to an MD PhD program, so we're very proud of her. So we hear those stories a lot. So again, contact your faculty. If you're an undergraduate, listen to this. If you're a parent, tell them to contact faculty and be persistent, and we'll be able to find you a spot.
The next question, what other interdisciplinary initiatives do you see the school investing in? Let me take that sort of in two parts. First off, internally to the school, and then beyond the school. One of the objectives of the School of Science and Engineering from the very beginning was to integrate science and engineering because 21st century engineering is being driven by 21st century science. And what's happening in the sciences across the board is just breathtaking. And I think Jill alluded to some of that work, but engineers today are working in a different scientific world than they did back when I was in school. So we're going to continue to invest in that. One of the areas I think that still needs to be invested in is the intersection of the earth sciences, geology, with engineering. And this is something that we've begun to invest in. We've had some donors who have given us some funds to begin that process. We have an internal faculty committee, we have an external committee, and so there will be some announcements on that coming out in the not too distant future. We of course will continue to invest in our relationship with the health sciences. We have a lot more opportunities there than we tap even now with the activities that we're doing. But the conversation that was sparked by President Fitt's task forces on collaboration and interdisciplinarity has brought all of the deans at Tulane together to look at more programs that we can do across all of the schools. And I've got some conversations going on with Dean Solomon in the business school, with Dean Meyer in the law school, of course with Dean Haber in the School of Liberal Arts, which is another very large school here at Tulane University, looking at different kinds of programs that we can put together that bridges all of our disciplines. Some of those things you can see happening already. The computer science department has started to generate a lot of interdisciplinary activities well beyond anything we did before. We have faculty members in computer science who are interested in data analytics, who are interested in the arts, who are interested in public health, who are interested in bioinformatics, and those faculty members have reached out across the campus to build partnerships where certainly the application areas, there are rich application areas there in computer science. So, without going into a lot of detail at this point, I think you're going to see, I know you're going to see, a lot of collaborative activity going on at Tulane as a result of this task force recommendation. And the other thing I want to emphasize as well, the two task forces do not stand alone, apart from each other, and Jill alluded to this as well. One of the things that Tulane University, as a university, prides itself on is the ability of undergraduate students to participate in scholarship and research. And that's a big, big part of their undergraduate experience. So that's going to continue. If you look back at the webinar that I did in last fall, you can see a lot of the ways that I touched on about how the undergraduate experience will be affected by all of the disciplines across the campus, and we can extend a lot of those ideas to the certainly to the research side as well. So yeah, it's a rich environment here for collaboration. So
this question is, what is the timeline for establishing the Brain Institute? Well, I'm going to tell you about my timeline, and then I'll let Nick chime in. So actually, I've already gotten started, and we've moved more quickly than we imagined. So in my mind, over the next 5 years, I'd like to have established those 4 research themes and those 4 at least intellectual hubs of activity. I'd like to have investment in research initiatives, hopefully some faculty hires in all 4 of those themes. And the other, that's my first 5 years, and then in my second 5 years, in terms of intellectual development, I'd like to see us create or develop a neural engineering program specifically, and I'd like us to develop that computational neuroscience program that I talked about a few minutes ago. So then my goal, that's the second 5 years. I'd ideally like some physical infrastructure to go along with this intellectual development and faculty hires. We are starting, and I'll let Nick give you a little bit more detail about the timeline, but the Flower Hall construction for the Memory and Cognition Research Hub should be starting soon, right?
Correct. Yes, so the infrastructure is a very important piece of this. And the plan right now is to begin construction to build out the second floor of Flower Hall to house the footprint for the hub for the uptown portion of the Brain Institute. The plan is to begin that in this fall, and hopefully it won't take too long because the building is already there. It's not a matter of putting up a building. For those of you that are unfamiliar with Flower Hall, Flower Hall was built a few years ago. It's a 4-story building. The first floor and the 4th floor were fully occupied from the very beginning. The second floor and the 3rd floor were intentionally white space or shell space for future build-out, and the future build-out is now. So we're about to begin next week on the 3rd floor of Flower Hall. The 3rd floor will house the Entergy Chair in Clean Energy Engineering, as well as some other activities associated with that, all in the area of clean energy. The 2nd floor will house the Brain Institute, and we're hoping that before the end of next academic year, there will be a Brain Institute facility on the Uptown campus. I mentioned earlier the J. Bennett Johnston building downtown. There's some very nice space in that building that was recently renovated. And so I know that Jill's colleagues down there are looking into what their footprint should be down there, but that certainly is a candidate for a physical location down there that already exists. So I think that we can get that piece in place fairly quickly. The other piece, of course, is faculty positions, seed money for activities. We have received several gifts for the Brain Institute. We have several more gifts that have been that we should be getting fairly soon. In our capital campaign proposal, which this is going to be the big fundraising campaign that the university is going to embark on soon, I believe we have $50 million in that campaign requested for the Brain Institute. So we're taking this very seriously, and we intend to build it. Patience is not a virtue in my mind. This is so even though I'm sure Jill's timeline is faster than mine because I have the administrative realities to deal with, I really would like to go with her timeline and see if we can make that all happen as quickly as we possibly can.
I want to interject just a second. So I didn't make clear. So we have our vision, or we're actually acting on the vision for the Uptown footprint, the beginning for the Memory and Cognition Hub. And as Nick mentioned, my short-term vision, our short-term vision for the School of Medicine is to get something down there as well. Right. So again, to emphasize, it is this uptown-downtown collaborative.
And we're working with Dean Ham downtown, the Dean of the School of Medicine, on this initiative. I want to emphasize, this initiative is not a School of Science and Engineering initiative. This initiative is a Tulane University initiative. It's got to be owned by the university. It's got to have buy-in from everybody across the university. I, for one, do not want any administrative barriers to this whatsoever. So it is going to be the Brain Institute of Tulane University. It's going to report to the Vice President for Research and the Provost as appropriate, depending on whether it's a research activity or a academic activity, and it's going to be a major part of our campaign going forward.
And the question is, are there any public events planned for the Brain Institute? And yes, there is a big one. It's October 7th in the fall. So this year we're planning a big celebration. So we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. And in the morning, we're going to celebrate our past. And so we've invited 6 of our outstanding neuroscience alumni and a neuroscience alumni symposium. We have a neuroscience alumni luncheon that we're planning for attendees to the event. And then the afternoon, we're going to shift and look to the future. So we've invited a internationally known neuroscientist from the Salk Institute, Dr. Rusty Gage, an expert on memory, learning and memory, to be our keynote speaker. We will then have a virtual ribbon cutting ceremony at Flower Hall. It's virtual because it won't be built out at that point. And then we're going to have a celebration at 2 Audubon Place. So toast to the future of the Brain Institute. So that's going to be open to the public. We would be thrilled to have anyone who's listening to this to attend that event. And we're sending out invitations to that event in June. So thanks for asking that. The next question is, are medical students able to get involved with neuroscience and the Brain Institute research, or is the focus for a master's PhD student? Excellent question. So up until this point, our focus has been on graduate education in terms of master's and particularly PhD student education. That is one of the things we want to change. We want this organization, this umbrella organization, to be the home for all brain-related work at Tulane, which would include clinical work. We have some good clinical faculty. We have Dr. Martin Shield in neurology, who runs the stroke clinic. She is one of our faculty. We want to involve that clinical work in the work of the Brain Institute. I just had a meeting 2 weeks ago with Dr. Aaron Dumont, who is the chair of neurosurgery. He has joined our faculty over the last 2 weeks. And we had this really great conversation about how to bridge clinical training and scientific training. Oftentimes, clinicians and scientists don't talk to each other. And we're building the Brain Institute to change that. So yes, we think there is a place. We have faculty, and we have Dr. Stacy Jury, who is an MD in the Department of Psychiatry, who is on our advisory committee. And so with the help of these clinical researchers in neuroscience, that we hope to build a residency program in the Brain Institute, and that is one of our long-term goals.
I'll let you field that one too.
So what practical applications or treatments do you see made possible from the team at the Brain Institute? So a little bit about research and how we do research. So we have basic scientists, and that term is thrown out, so I want to show you what I see as what a basic science. Then you have preclinical research, and finally you have applied research. So basic scientist is a scientist who's interested in how the brain works. So if I'm interested in memory, which I am, I want to understand how the brain makes memories, and I want to understand how that changes across the lifespan. So I'm not necessarily trying to develop treatments, but basic scientists, the work of basic scientists today are what leads to treatments of tomorrow. So in the Brain Institute, we're going to have a basic scientist doing that work. We have preclinical research going on. So preclinical research, for example, Dr. Jim Sedina at the School of Medicine has developed a novel pain medication. So he is now testing that exciting medication that he thinks has the capabilities similar to morphine to treat pain, but without the risk for addiction. And so he's at the preclinical level. So he's testing out these compounds in animal models, and eventually that will go to the clinical research level. And at that point, we will bring, or he will, and his partners in industry will bring that drug to a clinical trial level. So that's an example how you can go from basic scientists understanding how the brain works, how it mediates pain, to developing a compound for pain, and eventually taking that compound to testing. And so we think the Brain Institute will be a place that will allow scientists and engineers looking at this basic science level to inform those scientists and engineers to want to do preclinical work, and finally to inform the clinicians who want to do the testing of those treatments. So yes, we think within each of our 4 research themes, the ultimate goal is to develop treatments for disorders relating to those themes.
Okay, the next question. Is the Brain Institute in response to President Obama's Brain Initiative? Well, certainly we're excited about the federal Brain Initiative. The Brain Initiative is big because the brain is big. There are so many issues involved with the brain. And so having the Brain Institute at the time that with this national initiative is great for us. It's great for funding. I will tell you that it did have some influence, I think, in renaming the neuroscience program the Brain Institute at Tulane. I think that that certainly was not lost on us, but the Brain Initiative is big, and we're very well positioned for the Brain Initiative. I might add to that, by the way, that there's another big initiative coming out of Washington, which is the Water Energy Food Nexus, it's called, and that's basically coming out of the National Science Foundation and other agencies. And we feel we're very well positioned for that as well. As a matter of fact, some of our researchers just received a large grant from the National Science Foundation for the Water Energy Food, in the Water Energy Food Nexus program. So the two themes of our school, as I said earlier, there are strengths, they're important to our region, and they actually are very fundable at this point. So it's the trifecta for us, I think.
So this question's asking me to comment on the NFL's relationship with the Institute of Sports Medicine and concussions, and is there a role for the Brain Institute in that work? And actually, yes, it's good timing for that question, because I had a meeting with Dr. Greg Stewart last week. He is one of the directors of the Tulane Sports, the Sports Institute? Is that the Sports Medicine Institute?
Right.
And they have
Institute of Sports Medicine.
Institute of Sports Medicine. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
So they have a partnership with the NFL and with the NFL's Players Association with regard to the health of former players. And so we talked about concussions and how we can integrate that work in regard to the concussion work and with the work of the Brain Institute. We particularly talked about this sort of a grand vision to develop a brain bank at Tulane. Dr. Stewart had some great ideas, and he asked me, was there interest among our faculty? And so we're investigating that right now. So yes, the Brain Institute is eager to play a role and to partner with that group and to get involved in the NFL's work in concussion research.
Okay, so this question just came up. I kind of, how does one, as the questions are coming in fast and furious, the handwriting is deteriorating. How does one design a practical path of study across a broad swath of subjects? Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question, but let me just sort of take a shot at it. Let me take I'll take a shot at it, and then I'll, if Jill doesn't like my answer, I'll hand it off.
Okay.
I think this really kind of goes back to my comment earlier about transdisciplinary. I think the path of study needs to be something which is a subject. It's got to be a deep subject area. It's got to be something where the student understands a discipline very thoroughly. So I don't see things changing there. I think being a deep thinker in an area is still critically important. When one talks about a swath of subjects, I think if you have something that you want to target, whether it's Alzheimer's or whatever, if you bring together people that have a deep understanding of disciplines that can be brought to bear on that, and if they're trained to work together, I think that's really a key to all of this. I think that one of the things that we need to create, both at Tulane and everywhere else, are places where people who are psychology, chemical engineers, neurology, whatever, come together and work on problems of mutual interest, where only bringing all of their skills together can address those problems. So I don't want people to think that when we talk about interdisciplinarity that we're talking about a shotgun approach to things. The Brain Institute has a lot of focused projects that they're working on, and what defines those projects is, are they important, and do we have the people that can come together and do breakthrough research in those areas?
And I'll just quickly answer that question, specifically with regard to our neuroscience students. So if our student is going to leave Tulane as a quote-unquote card-carrying neuroscientist, there are certain things we want them to know. And so we have a core curriculum. We have that for our undergraduates. We have that for our graduate students, that you need to know neuroanatomy. You need to know cellular neuroscience. So those there are core courses that all our students take. After they're done with the core courses, we let them then go into their specific area of interest. So we think by having core group with specialized group, we can develop that strong neuroscience program. And we'll wrap up, huh?
Okay, time to wrap up? That's a sign I'm getting. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. There will be webinars in the future. There will be 2 next year. The plan is right now to do a webinar each semester going forward. I do want to make an announcement here at the end that has some relevance to the leadership of the school. As many of you may know, that Tulane University is searching for a new provost, a new senior vice president for academic affairs. The plan is to fill that position by July 1 of this year. It is very unlikely that that's going to happen. It might, but it's very unlikely that it will because searches take a while. So I've agreed to serve as the Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs beginning July 1 and doing that job until the search is completed. So it could be a few months, it could be a year. While I'm serving as the Provost, Associate Dean Janet Rusher, who's our Associate Dean for Graduate Programs, will be the Acting Dean of the School of Science and Engineering. And Kyriakos Papadopoulos, who is a professor in the Department of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, will be serving as the Acting Associate Dean for Graduate Programs. And then Associate Dean Beth Wee, who many of you know, will be helping me out in the fundraising realm because I'm going to continue to do that activity for the School of Science and Engineering. So the next webinar, you may see a different face up here, but in the meantime, the school's going great. And Janet's going to do a great job as acting dean, and hopefully my service over at Gibson Hall will be short. Again, thank you all for viewing. Thank you for all the great questions. If we didn't get to your question, email it in, and I'll be happy to address it. And in the meantime, please continue to support the School of Science and Engineering, and thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.